A portion of today's video is sponsored by Shortform. Today, Razer launches their Deathstalker V2 line. It's a pretty intense name for a keyboard. This is Razer's challenger to the Logitech G915, a product that's been in market pretty much unchallenged by big brands for almost 3 years now. That's a pretty unique situation as a reviewer, comparing a brand new product to a product that's 3 years old, which is an eternity in the peripheral space. So I expect to see some pretty obvious and tangible improvements to the formula here from Razer. The lineup consists of the full-size Pro, which I've got here today, the Pro TKL, which I wish I had here today, and the standard V2, which is the wired full-size option. So the Pro is low profile, hyperspeed wireless, plastic lower with an aluminum top housing, and they're shooting for like a clean, minimal aesthetic on this one, which I think they hit pretty well. Branding is very minimal, with just a subtle Razer typeface logo on the bottom edge, which I didn't even notice was there at first. Really like that. The forehead has been greatly reduced from the G915, so we have less dedicated buttons on top. We have a single multi-tap button here that does play pause, double tap for skip forward, triple tap for skip back, and we have a big volume roller here as well. Both of these are metal. The roller has a tactility to it that feels very good, and it mutes when you click it in. You can remap the function of the roller itself, but oddly you can't remap the multi-press button. On the underside, you've got flip down feet for 6 and 9 degree height adjustment, and you have storage for the wireless dongle. On the top edge of the board, you have the selector for 2.4 or Bluetooth, and 3 quick select buttons for profiles, which are stored on the board. For each profile, you have hyperspeed wireless and 1 Bluetooth pairing, so 3 different profiles, 3 different Bluetooth pairings. Overall, the board is pretty light at 1 pound 11 ounces or 765 grams, and it's really comfortable with the front height so low that everything's in reach and there's no need for a wrist rest, at least for typing. To add some context there, even the TKO version of the Logitech G915 weighs 1 pound 12.7 ounces or 813 grams, so the Logitech is heavier and does feel more substantial in hand. These are low profile linear switches, and unlike the G915, which uses the Kale Chalk V2 switches, these are Razer's own. They will have a clicky switch variant in market at some point in time, but right now the TKO version is slated to only have the linear version. These feel really good, surprisingly good. They're smooth, there's a lot less wobble than the Chalk V2s, and they've got a silicone dampener inside the switch housing which reduces the sound but doesn't feel mushy. Any more silicone inside here and it would have affected the feel, but these have a really nice balance. This is going to be office or roommate or spouse approved, as it's not going to be very loud. I do like the sound of this board over the G915. It feels a lot less rattly overall, but the sound of this board can be improved greatly by just putting a little grease on these guys. These are stabilizers. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to grab a lube syringe. I have yet to meet the board that this tool didn't improve. You don't have to take anything apart to do this. You just have to remove a keycap. It takes about 5 minutes to do the whole board, and it makes a big difference. The caps themselves are ABS, but hold on, these are not the same cheapo spray-painted ABS keycaps that we've seen on other boards. These are using a new coating designed by Razer. They will show oil eventually, but not even remotely close to the oil and fingerprints that you see on lesser keycaps. They managed this noticeably better than the caps that are on the G915. They made the very bold claim that these keycaps are more durable than both double-shot ABS and double-shot PBT. That's crazy talk. So I asked him to clarify, because on a double shot cap, that legend or character, that plastic is part of the mold. It runs all the way through it, making it virtually impossible to ever wear the character off the keycap. They clarified that they were stress tested to see when shine would develop. That's when frequently used keys take on a shiny, glossy appearance. You see this way more on ABS versus PBT. I've personally never managed to shine a set of PBT before, but I'm sure it's possible. So take that marketing with a healthy bit of skepticism there, but do know that this board won't turn into an oily, fingerprinted mess over the course of a workday. The other thing I noticed about the caps is that the legends are very good. Backlight looks really consistent on the characters, and you don't see any shadowing or partially lit areas on the characters. I like that they've lit the secondary legends on the numero too. It's very helpful for those of us that use our boards in a dimly lit desk setting. The secondary legends on the numpad are not lit, and neither are the shortcuts, but when you hold function, it lights up which keys have function assignments. My favorite shortcut on this board is function end, which shows your current battery life on the indicators with 5 levels and color. This would do the trick for most users, but there is a more detailed percentage-based view in Synapse. As for battery, we've got a 4200 milliamp hour battery in here. This does charge over USB-C, which is a welcome change over the micro USB charging still found on the G915. Battery life here is rated at 40 hours. That's with 50% RGB and color cycling mode. 50% is still plenty bright, even for daylight use. 100% is very bright, and there is of course a timer setting to switch off the lighting to preserve battery. If you don't go in for all the rainbow RGB, the white setting looks great, and you still have functional backlight for daylight and low light conditions at like 20% strength, so you can save a lot of battery like that. This board does use the multi-device hyperspeed dongle, so you can have a single wireless receiver to handle 2 peripherals. This works with most of Razer's more recent mice. You will need Synapse to complete the pairing process once, but after that you don't need Synapse at all, so you can migrate 2 peripherals with a single dongle to any system, whether it has Synapse or not. You can even use this for like a media PC control in your living room. The big thing for me with wireless peripherals is I don't like a lot of wake-up time. If it's gone to sleep and I sit down, it needs to start typing as soon as I start typing, and this does. This setup seems perfectly suitable for gaming as well. I don't notice any delay of any sort. I was able to play just fine with no discernible latency. That was running with the Orochi V2 and the Deathstalker sharing the same dongle, and running additional 2.4 gigahertz wireless with the Arctis Nova Pro wireless headset that I just did a deep dive review on if you want to check that out. The low profile nature of this board is really comfortable for me for typing, but for gaming, I like to have it set to at least a 6-degree angle, and I prefer to use it with the wrist rest. As for Bluetooth, pairing with iOS devices can be a little tricky if you don't read the manual. You just need to hold one of the profile buttons down for a few seconds before you try to pair for the first time, or you'll get a timeout message. Outside of that, it functions great. No lag, no issues at all. The pairing process was much smoother on my Blade laptop, where Windows recognized it and connected immediately. So the Deathstalker is, in many ways, just objectively better than the G915, but to keep this in perspective, it's not hard to beat up on 3-year-old tech. And honestly, there's probably people out there that would still pick up the Logitech regardless. The big peripheral brands all kind of have their own vibe, and Razer, while I sincerely applaud their efforts to do productivity stuff or lifestyle crossover products, really have made a name for themselves as this dark, edgy gaming brand. Logitech has the reputation of being kind of a business casual productivity brand that also have managed some historic gaming products. Like if all the brands were having a party, Logitech would show up in a respectable blazer and khakis, and Razer would show up wearing a coat from The Matrix. SteelSeries would probably be DJing, and Corsair wouldn't be able to get in because they didn't know anybody inside. Bullshit aside, I personally would use this in a TKL form factor. I like the sleeker look with the thinner bezels, and the typing experience is better to me than the G915. The full-size G915 still goes for $249 at the time I'm recording this, so they're priced neck and neck. You'd have to make your own call. You also have to decide if low profile is even right for you, or if wireless is something worth putting a price premium on. As for the technical execution of this board, Razer did a very solid job with this. I love the switch feel, love the minimal frame, love that the keycaps aren't an oily mess after a day of use. I'm not in love with the price tag, but it just kind of is what it is. We're seeing inflation drive the prices of peripherals up, and honestly, there's just not a lot of competition in this particular segment. Kind of nice today to review a product that didn't require a super deep dive. Sometimes you want that deep dive and you've got the time to invest in that. Other times you just want something detailed, comprehensive, and to the point. And that is why I'm so happy I found a service like Shortform. Shortform makes the world's best guides to nonfiction books. It's like a summary, but that word really doesn't do this justice. Okay, say one of your friends or colleagues recommends a book on financial habits of the successful, like The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. That might be a great recommend, but you have no idea if that book is going to touch on things that specifically apply to you or your situation. On Shortform, you can check out the one-page summary first. This is a 10-minute read, very comprehensive breakdown of all the key topics in the book. If you like what you see, you can read or listen to the full guide. Not only do they present the key points in the book, but they provide other authors' takes on similar concepts or their own guides to add some insight to complex topics like inflation. And there's little interactive exercises if you're the kind of person that retains info better by doing. Now you know if that book is going to be worth the time investment. You can go read the original text with all the nuance that the author intends, and you always have this guide you can come back to later if you need a refresher. So now when I'm watching some of my favorite productivity YouTubers, I'm making a note of all the books they recommend, whether it's entrepreneurship or self-improvement or health and fitness. Then my next stop is Shortform to see if they really apply to me before I decide to invest the time. It's like taking a productivity approach to streamlining my own productivity. Crazy. To get 5 days of unlimited access and save 20% on the annual subscription, join Shortform by visiting my special link at shortform.com/badseed or click the link down in the description. Big thanks to Shortform for sponsoring today's video, and thank you so much for your time. If you want to check out my best recommendations for a wireless flagship gaming headset, you can do that right here. If you want to see what I'm personally using and recommending for a gaming keyboard, you can do that right here. That's it for today, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.